Donald Trump said on September 16 this year, when we win on November 8th and elect a Republican Congress, we will be able to immediately repeal and replace Obamacare. We're one day away from the elections. So let's assume that on Wednesday we wake up and the Republicans control the White House and Congress. Let's further assume the following scenario. On a cold January 2017 evening, the Republican Congress has approved for the second time to repeal Obamacare. But this time, President Trump, unlike Barack Obama before, will sign the legislation. The Republicans have tried over 60 times to overturn the healthcare law from hell, never successful being able to do this. In their attempts, they never brought forth a replacement bill. The only focus has been the abolition of this monster law. A few days later, Trump follows through and he signs during a historic ceremony, affixes his John Hancock onto the repeal bill. Obamacare is no more. The Republican Party engages in self-congratulatory praise and celebration. They have cured the country of this cancerous scourge that's been destroying the middle class from within. Now, let's look a little further. Sarah Jones goes to the hospital hours later for emergency care. She's been hit by a car. Sam Smith walks into the reception area of the hospital for his much needed and prayed for kidney transplant. Liz Brady, 8-year-old son Charles, has been diagnosed with cancer. Bob Green goes to Dr. Harry for his routine diabetes checkup. All of them are told that their insurance companies have refused coverage. Thus, if they want treatment, they must pay out of pocket. What? Are you kidding? How can this be? The response from the hospital and the physician's intake officers are sober. They say, sorry, you no longer have insurance. The intake officials inform Bob that if he is able to get insurance for his long-time condition of diabetes, he still might not have coverage for his now long-term pre-existing condition of diabetes. The insurance companies send out notices to all of its insureds. Sorry, but when Congress nullified the Affordable Care Act, it ended all pre-existing conditions coverage, which it no longer is mandated by the law. Oh, and by the way, if we can offer you a policy without pre-existing condition coverages, we will, but it won't include payment for your current condition. But now the promises made by Trump and the Republican candidates for Congress, and a website like Breitbart and a National Review, and so many others, that promise a new healthcare plan where you can keep your insurance coverage and your doctor, those promises ring hollow. Is this hypothetical scenario a scare tactic? No, absolutely not. When those Republicans over the past half-decade voted to repeal Obamacare, it left a major hole in their attack against the revolutionary health care program. The repeal did not include an associated fix in medical terms. They tried to stop the hemorrhaging, but in doing so, they were never concerned about leaving the patient on life support. As I've warned many times in the past, when a law is repealed, it suddenly ends. The legislation that the Republican House of Representatives has passed before, without Senate concurrence, or which this year passed by Congress but vetoed by President Obama, did not anticipate the reality of the future. it failed to account for the logical consequences that ending the law ends the coverage, and it ends the benefits associated with the coverage passed by this law. So this raises some really serious questions for insurance companies, states, doctors, patients, and the federal government. What happens with Medicaid expansion now that Obamacare is repealed? What happens with insurances that were not just purchased through exchanges, but bought privately and now contains provisions such as annual lifetime caps and, yes, pre-existing conditions? And what happens when states like Louisiana had opted in for Medicaid expansion, but the federal government now insists they're not going to pay for it? The federal government in turn says, sorry, we're no longer required to do so. We have other problems now. Republicans and Donald Trump and many conservative lobbying organizations wanting to end Obamacare immediately, they have been nothing less than totally irresponsible. They have vilified the law. They have made promises such as pulling Obamacare out by its roots on day one that they take office. But they cannot keep any of these promises without immediately pulling this country into chaos. Obamacare, Obama, the Democrats, and others, including Hillary Clinton, have not made much better in articulating the risk. They have not made the case exactly what the medical and healthcare world would look like if Obamacare were to suddenly pass away. The real problem has been so obvious. If a governmental body repeals a law, the provisions no longer exist. They no longer exist. It is true that legislators can set the repeal date to sometime in the future, but there's no guarantee that on that date certain there will be any solution or workable plan. And yes, certain provisions can be grandfathered to guarantee the continuance of coverage, but doing any of this will be a legislative and political challenge of the highest order, if not a miracle. Simply saying Trump and the Republicans will fix it, that's not enough. You can bet that insurance companies who were persuaded to pick up pre-existing conditions coverages because of the promise that they would have a pool of young, healthy insureds to compensate for those older, unhealthier ones. They won't roll over and play dead. They won't just start paying for pre-existing conditions. They never wanted the pre-existing coverages, and no plan presented thus far by anybody that have been widely accepted by the Republican Party or anybody else, or anybody with an interest or with skin in the game, has been accepted. Finding a solution to undoing Obamacare will take forever. Simply passing legislation does not mean the solution will fix the problem. No. Passing legislation, repealing, does not mean fixing. And passing further legislation saying we're going to fix the problem in the future on a certain date doesn't mean that it will be done. The Affordable Care Act was a noble endeavor in trying to extend health care coverage to many, giving incentives to insurance companies to participate, reducing the risk of all involved, and of course providing coverage for pre-existing conditions. But unfortunately, for many reasons, it's causing sizable increases in insurance premiums for some, and the insurance companies don't want to participate as they are losing money. Of course, there are other issues too. Yet the fury of resentment and opposition to the law has created a scenario of legislative malpractice. Those who have screamed and voted for immediate repeal without a plan, without a real plan in place, or cutting off the head without any promise or hope of any replacement. Ultimately, my guess is whoever is in the White House and in Congress will realize that the best course is the immediate future, is to try to fix the problems that do exist. If the Republicans gain control of the government, hopefully they'll realize that committing suicide by their public proclamations of immediate repeal and replacement without any real plan for replacement. Hopefully they will realize that fixing and ultimately replacing is the only legitimate way to proceed at this point. On Wednesday we'll have some sense as to which way the country will go. Let's hope that whoever wins the presidency in the United States Senate, let's hope that they will recognize that they have misrepresented the solutions to the public, or they have failed to diagnose the problems and the legitimate potential fixes. Hopefully, let's hope so.